As crypto regulations begin to take shape, we're likely to see deeper integrations between traditional finance and the crypto world. While much of the conversation has centered around major players like Ethereum, Solana, Sui, etc., there's been less talk about the so-called ISO-compliant cryptos. This messaging standard is used by TradFi, and it suggests that the cryptos that will get the most integrations are not necessarily the ones we've heard about in the news. And that's why today we're going to explain what ISO is, why it matters, which cryptos support it, and what it could mean for this emerging crypto niche and the crypto market. My name is Nick. Let's get into it. I'll start by saying that nothing in this video should be taken as financial or investment advice. This is purely for education and entertainment and is intended to broaden your knowledge of crypto's latest innovations. Oh, and full disclosure, some of the Coin Bureau team members do hold some of the cryptos mentioned in today's video. Okay, enough jibber jabber, let's dive in. Now, as traditional finance has evolved, steps have been taken to make transactions faster, cheaper, and more secure. An important step towards this goal is the adoption of the ISO 20022 standard, and you'll note that I've just referred to this as ISO in the introduction as well as for the rest of the script just for brevity's sake. As noted in the intro, ISO is a global messaging standard for exchanging financial messages between banks and other financial institutions. It was developed by the ISO's Technical Committee for Financial Services way back in 2004. That's like prehistoric times for crypto users. FYI, ISO stands for the International Organization for Standardization, which is based in Geneva. And yes, the letters in that acronym are the wrong way around, and there's an interesting reason for that, as the organization explains on their website. Quote, because International Organization for Standardization would have different acronyms in different languages, IOS in English, ION in French for Organisation Internationale de Normalisation, its founders opted for the short form ISO. And the story goes that ISO is derived from the Greek word for isos, meaning equal. The more you know. Anywho, ISO is essentially a universal rulebook that creates a common language for financial messaging. It standardizes all the different message formats into one unified model using extensible markup language, or XML for short. And this makes data processing way easier across different business models. In simple terms, it helps different financial institutions around the world communicate with each other more clearly when exchanging things like payment instructions, transaction details, or account information. So when you send money from your bank, the message that gets passed along is formatted using ISO, ensuring that it's understood on the other end. This standard is a huge step forward in modernizing digital payments. Why? Well, because it makes data processing much more streamlined and efficient. For instance, it supports real-time payment processing instead of relying on old-school end-of-day batch systems, which collect transactions throughout the day and process them all at once, usually after hours. By switching to ISO, banks and financial institutions can become much more efficient by automating more of the operations, cutting down on clerical errors and reducing the need for manual data processing. It also unlocks better data analytics, which means that banks could potentially create new, smarter payment services for their customers. So yeah, ISO is kind of a big deal. And if you're looking to maximize your intake of crypto alpha, then you have to check out the Coin Bureau Club. That's where you'll find daily insights from members of our research team. You'll also gain access to our exclusive Discord server and get weekly reviews on promising small and mid-cap altcoins as voted on by you, our loyal CBC elite. The link to that amazing resource is down in the description below. Now, at this point, you may be wondering, if ISO is a standard that's used by banks, what does this have to do with crypto? Well, quite a lot, actually. And that's because ISO will also bring some major advancements to the crypto space and could even help bring the industry one step closer to the promised land of mass adoption. ISO opens the door to this possibility by making it much easier for banks to accept and process crypto transactions, which will in turn make cross-border transactions much faster and cheaper. It will also allow transacting between fiat and crypto to become much smoother, since both sides will eventually be speaking the same language. If you watched our video on PayFi, you'll know that this will be the key to unlocking crypto's true potential as a digital payments rail. And you can learn more about the PayFi sector in this video right over here. ISO will also help to improve the interoperability between different cryptos and will also benefit crypto's role in the traditional financial sector. And this could lead to a much deeper integration between crypto and legacy systems, thereby giving people a broader range of financial tools and options. But here's where things get interesting. Cryptos that comply with the ISO standard will also be able to receive other ISO codes. And this means that they will be able to work to the same international standards, even if the underlying tech of each crypto is completely different. And this kind of compliance could make banks much more willing to adopt compliant cryptos, especially for cross-border payments. And not only that, but the built-in reporting features of ISO will also help support crypto exchanges with regulatory compliance. Naturally, this will help mitigate some of those long-standing concerns around cryptos used in illicit finance. This will help crypto skeptics to feel much more comfortable with using crypto for transactions. In short, ISO makes crypto feel safer and more trustworthy for institutions, regulators, and everyday users alike. As such, this will bring crypto even closer to mainstream use and adoption from all angles. And this could be extremely bullish for the adoption of stablecoins as a payment mechanism and could seriously benefit cryptos that are already geared towards payments. So it all sounds pretty promising, and at this point you're almost certainly curious to know which cryptos fall into this category. Well, this is where things get a bit tricky, and that's because technically speaking, there aren't actually any coins or tokens that are ISO 20022 compliant, at least not yet. The reason for this is simple. For crypto to be ISO compliant, it requires that the project is actually registered with ISO. In fact, this common misconception is explained in the FAQs of the standard's dedicated website. Quote, "There is a lot of confusion and misleading information on the web referring to ISO-compliant cryptocurrencies, but those statements are not correct. The cryptocurrencies are not managed and not registered by ISO. The ISO standard managing digital token identifiers, or DTI, is ISO 24165. That being said, there are a handful of crypto projects meeting the necessary standards for ISO compliance, even if they're not officially registered, although, to be honest, it's a short list. At the top of the list, we have Ripple's XRP, which is widely regarded as the most ISO-compliant crypto project out there. Although Ripple's CTO has previously stated that, quote, XRP has nothing to do with ISO, Ripple itself actually became an official member of the ISO standards body in late 2024. And in turn, Ripple leverages XRP as part of the digital payments protocol, which is designed to simplify and improve global transactions, offering banks and financial institutions a modern alternative to the outdated SWIFT network, which has been used since the 70s. Another crypto on the list of ISO-compliant cryptos is Stellar's XLM, which is often seen as Ripple's biggest rival. And that's because Stellar was founded by Jed McCaleb, who also co-founded Ripple before splitting off to start Stellar, building its technology based on the Ripple protocol. Like Ripple, Stellar is a decentralized payments platform designed for fast, low-cost cross-border transactions, aiming to promote financial inclusion by connecting banks, payment processors, and individual users worldwide. While Ripple focuses on institutional payments, Stellar is geared more towards individuals, supporting smaller transactions and the creation of digital assets through its decentralized exchange. It's especially effective for remittances and tokenized asset transfers. However, it's important to note that neither Stellar nor the Stellar Development Foundation are affiliated with or registered with ISO, at least at the time of shooting, so technically speaking, neither is compliant with any ISO standard. Another ISO-compliant cryptocurrency is Cardano's ADA. Now, Cardano aims to improve on smart contracts from older blockchains like Ethereum, with a focus on scalability and interoperability. Unfortunately, neither Cardano, the Cardano Foundation, IOHK, nor Emergo are currently affiliated with or registered with ISO. There's also Hedera's HBAR. Now, unlike traditional blockchains, Hedera uses hash graph technology to deliver fast, secure transactions and support the development of dApps across sectors like gaming, social networking, and of course, digital finance. As you might have guessed, there are currently no formal links between Hedera or its coordinating entities and the ISO. Of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Algorand, which aims to create a borderless economy through its decentralized, permissionless public ledger. Algorand is focused on solving the so-called blockchain trilemma by delivering speed, security, and decentralization simultaneously. The last ISO-compliant crypto we'll be mentioning today is XDC Network, which is designed to support secure and efficient cross-border transactions, trade finance, and supply chain management. It's built on XinFin, a hybrid chain combining private and public blockchains. Again, neither Algorand nor XDC Network are formally ISO-compliant, but this doesn't mean they won't be in the future. And it's also important to note that this list is not exhaustive. We'll leave links to some handy resources in the description about these and other ISO cryptos in case you wanted to do some deeper digging. You're welcome. Now, crypto's move towards ISO compliance is a fairly recent development, and as such, the list of compliant cryptos is likely to grow. TradFi's adoption of crypto and the competitive nature of the crypto industry suggests that this messaging standard could become a major focal point for crypto projects everywhere. So then, which other cryptos could become compliant with the ISO 20022 standard in the future? Well, perhaps the most obvious one that could join this list is Ethereum. And that's because while Ethereum isn't natively compliant with the standard, its modular architecture could allow for ISO messaging to be implemented through one of its bajillion layer 2s. Ethereum's biggest competitor, Solana, could also become compliant with ISO, albeit for different reasons. And that's because Solana's speed and low costs already make it an ideal solution for cross-border payments. Integrating the ISO standard will also help banks and institutions to leverage its capabilities. More importantly, crypto projects that prioritize interoperability could become major players in the financial sector by adopting this standard. And that's just because ISO is designed with interoperability in mind. Interoperability cryptos could therefore benefit from integrating ISO alongside their crypto-native cross-chain messaging protocols. Similarly, data infrastructure projects that focus on bridging on-chain and off-chain data, like Chainlink, for example, will likely integrate ISO at some point. And that's simply because it would be required for them to continue growing as crypto continues to integrate with TradFi. And of course, we'd be remiss not to mention stablecoins, which may be the most likely candidate for ISO compliance. With each passing day, it looks more and more like stablecoins will play a critical role in traditional finance, and that's going to require ISO compliance. So, as you can see, there's a whole heap of cryptos that could eventually begin to integrate with traditional financial systems by becoming ISO compliant. And if you're looking at your favorite cryptos and wondering, could my crypto one day be one of these ISO-compliant cryptos? Well, ask yourself these simple questions. Is this crypto looking to integrate with, or at least interface with, the traditional financial system? Can this crypto be easily upgraded, either by smart contract functionality or by a third-party protocol? And does this crypto have a use case that could be beneficial to banks and other financial institutions? If the answer to any of these questions is a resounding yes, then chances are it could become ISO compliant sooner than you might think. But just remember that supporting the ISO messaging standard and being recognized by ISO are technically two different things. Now, unless you've been living under a rock for the last few months, you'll know that crypto regulations has been taking major leaps forward lately, and this begs the question of what positive crypto regulations could mean for the ISO-compliant cryptos. As you've probably guessed already, positive crypto regulations could seriously benefit ISO cryptos in a big way. In fact, they could be what puts these cryptos on the map for TradFi, and that's simply because these regulations will help to legitimize the crypto industry. With a regulatory backdrop that doesn't stifle crypto's innovative potential, banks, governments, and large institutions will feel much more confident in adding crypto to their systems. And when you consider that ISO is the standard being used by the biggest banks in the world, you quickly realize that this could bring some serious capital into these cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies that are ISO compliant could become the most preferred candidates for TradFi integration. As a result, demand for these compliant assets could surge, giving cryptos that are already ISO compliant at the technical level a significant first-mover advantage. Being plug and play with the traditional financial sector means that they'll be ready for integration while others are left scrambling to catch up. The ISO registrations can easily be sorted out. And of course, as crypto becomes more integrated with the traditional financial sector, this will undoubtedly attract a fresh wave of investors, be they retail or institutions. And this could cause the prices of any ISO-compliant cryptos to pump in a big way, since these would be the cryptos with the highest levels of demand. Believe it or not, but the growing presence of TradFi in crypto could end up favoring ISO-compliant altcoins over all other cryptos, possibly including Bitcoin. The catch is that if ISO-compliant cryptos were to surge in demand, then chances are we'd see ISO-compliant Layer 2s start springing up on Bitcoin, the same way they could with Ethereum. Last but not least, the proliferation of these cryptos in TradFi would eventually find its way into the operations of central banks and governments. This could result in central banks and governments running validators on their respective networks to ensure that they remain robust. It's possible that they could even hold their respective coins or tokens as strategic reserve assets. So watch this space, because the more that TradFi gets involved in crypto, the more important TradFi interoperability standards like ISO will become. Let's just hope that the TradFi giants don't just opt to launch their own private and permissioned ISO-compliant blockchains instead. Now, if you enjoyed that video, you'll love our latest one, and that you can watch right over here. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, you can do that right over here. That's me for now. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.